Hello. How are
Hi,
you?
I'm
Sorry if you.
good.
Good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you
Where are you?
in Venice, California.
California. Oh my goodness. You're going to have to catch us up on how California is. But I've been a fan of yours for a very long time. I read Clean years ago. I don't even remember when it came out and have followed your work since. But introduce yourself to our audience and let them know who you are. And I know all about you, but go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
You're making me work. I'm a doctor. I was born in Uruguay. I went to medical school there. I moved to New York after graduating to do my internship, residency, and fellowship in internal medicine and cardiology. And during those times, due to the drastic change in lifestyle, I started getting really sick. Started gaining weight. I started having severe allergies and bad digestion. But what scared me most was I started being very depressed.
Oh no.
So I went to see my teachers. I saw a gastroenterologist, an allergist, and a psychiatrist, and they told me that I had severe allergies, severe depression, and irritable bowel syndrome, and they gave me 7 prescription medications.
Oh my gosh.
And looking at the prescriptions, I had these two really strong feelings. One was that I didn't want to do that, and the other one was that I didn't want to do that for my patients either anymore.
Hmm.
So I had a midlife crisis,
Oh no.
and I graduated from cardiology fellowship, and I moved to a monastery in India to learn about meditation
You did. Oh my
and
gosh. I didn't know that.
and to start healing myself. And there I was exposed to other practitioners like Chinese medicine doctors, Ayurvedic medicine doctors, chiropractors, naturopaths, hands-on healers, Reiki healers, you name it. And we were working together, and everybody would give their opinion according to what they learned, and it was really interesting. Then after that, I came back to the United States, and the symptoms that I arrived to in India had improved somewhat, but on my return to the United States, where I was working in a busy practice, cardiology practice in Palm Springs, I started getting sick again,
Oh no.
but with a vengeance. Until one day, a friend of mine knocked on my door. I had seen him 10 days before, and when I opened my door, I just couldn't believe the transformation that this guy was showing me just by standing there. I mean, his eyes were white and his skin was glowing, and he
Hmm.
he was calm for the first time in my life that I've seen him. So I said to him, "Well, what did you do? Did you have plastic surgery, right?" And he said,
Right.
No." He was laughing. He said, "I went to a detox center." I said, Dude, I didn't know you were into drugs." He said, "No, no, no, not that kind of not that kind of detox."
Yeah.
Um, and he just drove me there to this place, to this juice fasting center, with colonics and all kinds of supplements. And for me, it was very foreign, even though I'm open-minded and I had just come back from India, and this was something that I had never heard of before. So I spoke to the owner, the founder, who was not a doctor, but she had had her own health issues and had
Hmm.
healed from all these things that she was practicing there. And it made a lot of sense to me. But more than anything, you cannot argue with the results, and everybody there was glowing.
Wow.
So I did the program, and 10 days later, I not only didn't have any more depression, I not only
You were
had
glowing.
I had yeah, no more allergies and no more irritable bowel syndrome, but I was glowing, and I looked younger, and I felt younger, and I just couldn't believe how this was not taught to me in medical school.
Right.
This That's what I went to medical school for, not to give pills. So that took me on another spin that not ended, but took some shape when I found the Institute for Functional Medicine,
Mm-hmm.
who explained to me everything that I was seeing at this detox center,
Right.
and looked a little bit like hokey pokey. Then I really understood, okay, so this is what's happening.
Right.
So when they taught me in medical school that the liver does this, and the kidney does this, and the the intestines do this, and but they never told me that they all also participate in a bigger system, which is the detox system, the detoxification system. And then I really started understanding, and I started really seeing that the problem that we are dealing with today as a species is the toxicity of our planet.
Yes, definitely.
Everybody talks about global warming, but that is just a symptom. That's just the fever of the planet.
Mm.
The cause of the fever is the toxicity of our planet. Toxicity that not only expresses itself in terms of the toxic chemicals that we are exposed to in the air we breathe, the water we drink and shower with, the medications we
Yes.
consume, the cosmetics we apply on our skins, but mostly the foods that we eat that alone or in combination have toxic chemicals that end up causing symptoms, dysfunction, and ultimately diseases.
So, Dr.
But
Junger,
also expresses itself in our political system, in our judgment, in our relationships,
very much.
and so many other ways, and in the way we practice medicine.
So, I have folks are asking, when were you in India? They want a little bit of a timeline. When were you in India? When did this whole experience happen for you? And when was the clean sort of first published? Paint that timeline for us.
So I graduated from medical school in Uruguay in 1990, moved to New York from 1990 to 1996, or
Mm-hmm.
beginning of 97. I did my internship, residency, and fellowship in cardiology at NYU and Lenox Hill Hospital.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Then 1997, I went to India
Okay.
until 98 and a half. Then I came back to the United States. 99, I moved to Palm Springs. I worked there for 4 years in various hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Then I moved to LA in 2003. Then I moved to New York in 2006.
Oh my
Then
gosh.
I moved back to LA in 2011.
Oh my goodness. So you've been everywhere. And your book, The Clean, was very much about the importance of detoxing, cleaning up, cleaning house, all these things. What has evolved in the years since? What is your concern? I mean, we can go in so many different directions, right? But what is your concern with what you see today? And how do those concerns about toxicity, the health of the planet, the health of us as individuals, play into this global pandemic and what we're seeing play out in front of us right now? So tie those things up for many people watching today.
The concern that was born when I was able to see the toxicity of our planet and how it's impacting me has only grown in a way, and not because the situation is worse, which it is,
Right.
but because now I have 3 kids, and I am looking for ways to amplify the message. There are
Mm-hmm.
people talking about it, but not enough.
Right.
So that is the biggest concern, or and I wouldn't say concern because I don't walk around concerned. I walk around motivated to share, motivated to teach, motivated to help people individually or in groups, by writing books, by doing what I'm doing with you today. So I wouldn't call it a concern, but it is a concern too. If I stop
Right.
and think about it, it's a big concern, especially because I have 3 kids. And when you have kids, yeah, kids, everybody's kids are important. But
Right.
when you have kids, there's an added urge,
Primal urge to protect.
yes, to
Yes.
protect
Yeah.
and pave a way that as free of dangers as you humanly can, right? And we're not doing well in that sense. And then since then, since my first book until now, I've been just finding ways of communicating things, finding ways of helping people get started, because I think that the biggest problem we have these days is getting started.
Right.
Yeah, probably not for you, probably not for the people that are listening to us right now, but this is a very small fraction
Yeah.
or of the
Right.
spectrum. There's
Right.
so many people out there that are walking around concerned about how they're going to pay for their food and how they're going to put the roof on their kids'
Right.
heads, right?
Right.
So for them to which is a lot of people, and even if it's not that dire, the people are walking around concerned about so many things,
Mm-hmm.
and the hardest thing for people is to get started, right? So I'm always looking for ways to inspire, because when I realize that when I get people started,
They're fired.
a lot of them, they don't stop.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
run with it.
Yeah. Well, I think, we are on the same page with so much. I think the pandemic is a sign of our global toxicity, right? And then even when we peel all the way back and we go to the exam room and the practice, we're seeing it in so many ways with different diseases, with the mental health crisis, with the estrogenization of men and the androgenization of women, this whole hormone shift that's happening even between genders. I find that there's so many signs of toxicity everywhere. Where, for the person listening who may want to go give this message to their friend or their husband or wife or whoever else, where do you start? I feel like when I talk toxicity with a patient or with a friend or anybody, it gets very overwhelming. Like, do I clean my home? Do I get rid of my makeup? Do I eat organic? Do I go run for office and lobby? Like, right down the road from here, there was a plant. This is a nice area of Atlanta, lots of great homes, private schools, all this other stuff. But there's a plant not too far, a bioengineering plant releasing toxic chemical, ethylene dioxide, into the air. And it's taken everything to shut the plant down and to stop it. And the rate of autoimmunity in this circle over here is very high. So again, like, what do we do? Where do we start?
We do all of those things,
Oh my
right?
God.
But obviously, Doc, not everybody can do everything, right?
Right.
So what is one point that everybody has to do at
Yes.
some point, if
Yes.
we are going to survive as a species, if we are going to give ourselves the maximum opportunity or likelihood of living a healthy life, you start in your kitchen. You start with
Food.
food. You
Yeah.
start with food, and do you lobby? Do you do? Yeah, all of the above. Mark Hyman is now lobbying and not lobbying, but trying to change policy, and I think it's
Right.
great, right?
Right.
But what do people do? People vote and lobby and change things with their power of purchase, with
Yes.
with their choices.
Yes.
That's where you start. So you start really sinking it in for people, conceptually and experientially, that food is medicine, that your kitchen is your pharmacy, and that you are what you eat, and don't eliminate.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the most basic, but also the most powerful way of getting started.
I love that. Food is medicine. You are what you eat. Your kitchen is your pharmacy. I'm going to be using that for sure. Those are powerful quotes and so important for us.
They're all yours.
Awesome for us to all remember. So, okay, we're in the kitchen. We get in there. And that's the good thing about the pandemic, right? So many of us have gotten back in the kitchen. We've gotten back to cooking and doing these things that we had gotten very far away from. What in the kitchen specifically? Like, if you could give everybody watching today 3 food rules, what would you tell them beyond don't eat out very much? What would you say to them?
Well, but don't make beyond don't eat so much such a simple thing, but that's a huge thing.
Right, right.
It's a huge thing, right? For example, what I tell people is this: we are products of nature. Call it God, call it nature, call it intelligence, whatever you want. I'm going to call it nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
We are designed by nature to live in a way in which nature designed animals to live, to eat in a way in which nature designed animals to eat. Now, when you look at animals that are living according to the laws of nature, that means in the wild, as we
Mm-hmm.
call it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I would call LA wild,
Oh my
but
God.
and not the and
Different
not
story. Totally
and
different
and not the Amazon jungle, right?
Right,
But yeah, we call it animals that are living in the wild. They don't get sick with chronic diseases like we do.
right.
There is no rhinos with rheumatoid arthritis or lions with depression or the chronic diseases that we are suffering from as a species are are a consequence, direct consequence of our departure from nature, from the rules of nature, right? Now, what are the rules of nature? The rules of nature are that animals spend most of the time outside, in the air, in the fresh air, under the sun. And what do animals do all day long? They look for food, and when they find it, they have a feast, and when they don't find it, they fast.
Mm-hmm.
And certain animals find foods faster than others or more often than others. The meat eaters sometimes go for days, even weeks without finding food.
Right.
Now, when they find it, boom, they have a big feast, right? And then they fall asleep, and then they wake up maybe a day later, and they what do? They have some
Right.
fun, they mate,
Yeah.
and then after a while, they start getting hungry. They start looking for food.
Mm-hmm.
So in nature, there's a design of feasting and fasting that
Ah,
we as a
didn't think
species that we as a species have completely ignored, and now we are born into this social, cultural, financial structure and programming that human beings, the normal thing for is to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And there is no breakfast, lunch, and dinner in nature. That's not how nature designed it. But we are born, we don't question it. We are taught breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and and life is people grow and die thinking that breakfast, lunch, and dinner is the normal thing. And then some people start questioning it, and so they these this advice that they say, oh, have breakfast like a king, and uh, lunch like a middle class man,
Mm-hmm.
and dinner like a beggar, right? And these are all alluding to quantities, but it all boils down to how much time does your body spend, much time and energy does your body spend digesting.
Mm-hmm.
Digestion takes a lot of energy from the body. That's why when you eat a big meal, you can just fall asleep.
Yeah.
But we as a species are digesting all day long, which steals energy from all kinds of systems. Detoxification being one of them.
So are
And and
you a advocate then for fasting, for intermittent fasting, or all these fasting ways that are out?
nature is an advocate for fasting. And
Mm-hmm.
when I follow that nature's example and advice, which is also written in many other ancient modalities,
Mm-hmm.
Ayurveda,
Yep.
not only medicine modalities, but even religion modalities, right?
Mm-hmm. Of
Every
course.
every
Ramadan.
every
Yep.
Ramadan, Yom Kippur, Lent, you name it, right? So yeah, I know that fasting has incredible benefits, and intermittent fasting uh, uh, has resolved so many people's problems.
So how best does somebody, if we go back to nature as you're suggesting, and we gauge our appetite, we get rid of the paradigm of breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Do you wait till you're hungry to eat? so many people are disassociated with what being hungry really is. How much of it is, I almost feel like hunger for us nowadays in our overconsumption state, hunger is more emotional than it is a true physical feeling.
I cannot agree more with that. In fact, I write about that in my books. And what I say is that most people really don't know what hunger is.
Hmm.
There are human beings that know what hunger is.
Absolutely.
There
Yes.
are, but most people don't know what hunger is, especially not the ones that are listening to us right now.
No.
So
Right.
so
Right.
so so what we call hunger is a body sensation that we have somehow associated with hunger, named, labeled it. Yeah, but that sensation is actually not one sensation, is a myriad of sensations:
Hmm.
boredom, jealousy, anxiety, fear, sadness. Different people have tinges of all those emotions
Hmm.
mixed with the sensation that we call hunger, right?
Right.
Not only hunger. Sometimes we call it starving. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I go in an elevator with people from office. Oh, I'm starving. Are you really? You know, so this is the personal journey that I'm going through as we speak, which is
Hmm.
I am trying to figure out what is the best way for me to feed myself, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I never wake up with the desire to eat. I realized that that was a whole
Condition.
habitual thing that I was taught and I was trapped into, because when you eat late at night or when you eat at night, then you wake up in the morning. A lot of people are not hungry; they just have breakfast. If you're hungry, it's because your dinner the night before threw your glucose metabolism off, and then you had a peak at night. That's why
Right.
you didn't sleep well, and then you wake up with you're at the bottom and you need some sugar or some stimulant. You know, that's why everybody's addicted to coffee in order to. Anyways, the subject is so fascinating to me, but it boils down to I never have breakfast in the morning, except sometimes when I do wake hungry, or when I do wake with what I now call my body's asking me for food,
Hmm.
right? And that also has to be has distinctions, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I what I'm doing now is, and I don't know if this is a term, this is a thing, or I'm coming up with it. I don't want to be like Trump, that he thinks he comes up with terms, but
Bigly. Bigly. This is
what I'm doing
bigly.
now is
Yeah.
what I'm doing now bigly is in intuitive fasting,
Ah,
right?
okay. Uh-huh.
So no day looks alike.
Hmm.
Sometimes my first feed is at 7 o'clock in the afternoon. And
Hmm.
then sometimes it's at 3 p.m. But it's never in the morning. Except when I'm traveling, I don't know why I get hungry in the morning, or I have that thing different from. I now I'm able to distinguish what is when it's boredom, when it's anxiety. When I have an argument with somebody, the first thing I want to go eat.
Right. So let's stop there for just a second because that is everyone's hardest problem. They want you to say hi to Maya. Say hi to Maya.
Hi, Maya.
There you go. All right. Hopefully we made your day. But anyhow, everyone's biggest challenge is the emotional fatigue, right? Like so many of our jobs, other people I meet, executives I meet, we're doing this all day long. They're doing this all day long. They're in front of a screen. And by the time they have a lot of discipline all day long, they're not hungry, they're busy, so they're not even aware of hunger. But when they put it all away, this has happened to me as well. You put it all away, everything goes down. There's this drain of energy, right? You feel drained, you feel run over, and all of a sudden you want to eat everything in sight. And so many patients tell me that, so many people tell me that. And I don't think I've yet served them with a really great hack as to how to stop that, how to recognize what that emotion is. That emotion is fatigue. In our profession, I think it's the emotional drain of story and helping and healing and things like that. But how do we stop that? How do we tap into that intuition, understand what's happening with us, before we go reach for whatever's lying right there?
Great question. So this is what I do myself,
Mm-hmm.
and what I urge people to do. Right? It's when the problem is that we are unconscious most of the time. We're
Right.
just reacting to
Going.
thoughts,
Right.
emotions. We don't even know what's going on, right?
Right.
But for the people that are really desiring to uh, get out of that jail of feeling and eating and then feeling and then eating, when you feel that, when you feel that hunger, when you, oh, I'm hungry, you think, you don't even need to say it to anybody. You think it yourself, I'm starving, and you go to the kitchen and you start looking for stuff or the pantries or wherever. When you get that sensation, when you get that thought, I'm hungry, I'm starving, whatever that thought or sensation is, you, if you remember, right, before you go and grab something,
Mm-hmm.
then you sit down and you close your eyes and you put your hands like this and
Mm-hmm.
you ask yourself, so where is that sensation coming from, right? And sometimes it's in the pit of your stomach, sometimes it's in the lower abdomen, sometimes it's here. So you
Mm-hmm.
start saying, well, where is it? How is it? Is it hot or is it cold? Is it coming and going or is it constant? Is it painful or is it, or is it just bothersome? And you start asking yourself all these questions, trying to distinguish the different qualities of what that sensation is. And two things are going to happen, or two things are likely to happen. They happen to me and they happen to many people that report to me. Is first, they start realizing that it's not really hunger, because when they focus on the sensation itself and they start feeling it, other thoughts come in and they start realizing that it's just anxiety or just whatever it is, right? Whatever emotion it is. The second thing that happens is that it disappears,
Mm-hmm.
because your attention is your light. When you put your attention in that dark part of your functioning, obscure, and I'm not feeling dark in a nasty way. I'm saying
Right.
dark in the subconscious way or
Mm-hmm.
not conscious way, and it disappears. And you may have had an experience similar to this, which is, you're driving
Mm-hmm.
and you're driving and driving, and suddenly you get hungry. You don't have anything to eat in the car, and you may be waiting for some food stop, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't find it. Half an hour later, the sensation is not there. You see the food stop. You don't even go because right. So that the real hunger, when the
Mm-hmm.
body is really asking you for certain nutrients, only gets more intense, more intense, more intense as time goes
Doesn't
by.
dissipate.
This thing that we call hunger comes and goes, and
Mm-hmm.
so those are the things that you can start looking inside for to really understand. And this is one of the most important things that anybody can do, because if you unlock that, it's the key to the jail of eating for any sensation.
Do you think it's the amount of eating that is getting the planet and the country in trouble, or it's the quality of eating?
I think it's both.
It's
I think
both.
it's amount, the frequency,
Mm-hmm.
the frequency and amount is, they're just
Right. Yeah.
they're very uh, correlated, right? But it's that, and then it's what we eat. You
Yeah.
know, and more than what we eat is what we grow, how we grow what we eat,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we eat plants from a field which has been monocultured for years, only one type of plant was grown in those fields, then the nutrients that species needs, they're probably going to be depleted. And then because it's a monoculture and not a multi-biodiverse situation, it's going to be more susceptible to attacks by other species. So that's why they need pesticides and insecticides. So if you're eating that kind of plant, you're not only harming your body, you're harming the planetary body. Now, if you eat plants that are grown organically and biodynamically and in harmony with the laws of nature, which that's what those things mean, then you're benefiting yourself and the planet, right? Same thing with if you are a meat eater, if you're an animal meat eater, right? If you're gonna eat chicken, cows, or fish,
Right.
make sure that those were living themselves before being killed, living according to the laws of nature. So fish are from oceans or from rivers, not from
Right.
fish farms, right? And cows not from feedlots, cows that been eating grass, not grains, cows that have not been given antibiotics and hormones. Same with chickens, right? So yes, it's both the quantity and and what we're eating and how we're growing our food that is killing us and the planet.
I mean, such powerful information. I'm getting so many questions. Let me just throw a couple of questions from the audience, and then we'll try to wrap this in just a minute. But I've got people asking, and there's a comment too, which I'll get to in a minute. But I've got people asking, in your opinion, what are the most common anti-inflammatory foods? What do you think the top ones are?
So you know, the I'm going to answer it in a different way. I'm going to tell them what the most common inflammatory foods
Okay,
are. Right?
gotcha.
So there's the big five, that anybody that wants to embark in really getting well should stop for a while.
Okay.
Right? Which are dairy, gluten, sugar, alcohol, and coffee.
Yes, you got this. We have the same top five. High five. I love it.
and then there are others
Right.
depending on the situation. For example, people that have inflammatory joint disease shouldn't be eating nightshades, and people, so there's little distinctions like that, which are they also add up. People that need gut repair shouldn't be doing grains for a while until the gut is repaired. And there are many things that are healthy for certain populations that are not healthy for other populations. But if you just stop those five completely for a period of 2, 3, 4 weeks, almost everybody will feel an improvement in their health.
And that's our first step to detoxing, right? That's a big part of like detoxing, getting clean. Tell us what you're doing with the clean program now. What's happening there? Is there another book coming out, or tell us what's happening
So
with it?
I wrote my first book, Clean, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, I don't even remember, 11 years ago. And that was a 21-day program based on principles from functional medicine that really changed people's lives. But then I became very
Yeah.
frustrated because I wasn't able to reach enough people, and even the people that I reached, 21 days is something that's difficult for a lot of people to wrap their minds around and
Right.
adjust their social life to. So I became obsessed with finding, because the first 7 days of my 21-day program are the difficult days. So if people do 7 days of it and then they abandon, then they would be shut off from cleansing and detox because they say, that doesn't work for me.
Right.
People sometimes don't understand that the benefits come a little bit later, right? So I became obsessed with trying to get a shorter way of showing people some really good results. And it was then that I started mixing a functional medicine principles with Ayurvedic medicine principles and intermittent fasting. And that led to the Clean 7 program, which is
Wonderful.
more intense. And in 7 days, you can have an experience that will put fire under your butt to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got some pushback on coffee. So tell us why coffee, and I have this conversation with my husband all the time because we have coffee wars. He overdoes the coffee for sure. But why is coffee on the list? It's alcohol, guys.
Coffee,
Yeah,
coffee is not the problem. The
yeah.
problem is the way we grow it and the way we use it. So the two big problems with coffee are that, one, coffee, regular coffee, is the most irrigated with chemicals crop in the world. I'm not sure why. It's very susceptible to diseases, so it's just loaded with pesticides and insecticides, and so if you're buying coffee that's not organic, but really organic coffee, then that's one big problem. The second problem is that coffee uh, used to be a very strong medicine and shamanic tool. People would
Mm-hmm.
use coffee for ceremonies and for out of body experiences and for and
Mm-hmm.
now hundreds of years later, or I'm not good with dates, but many years later, generations later, coffee is like water. We're drinking coffee all day long,
Yeah.
and but it's still a very powerful stimulant. So imagine if we just suddenly erased coffee from the planet, right? How many people's energy would go
Right.
down? I mean, so it's keeping us in a way artificially awake. What does that mean for an individual person? Is that if you need coffee in order to function, coffee is not good for you.
Yeah.
At least for now. You need to free yourself from your dependence on coffee, because coffee can exhaust your adrenal glands, and then people don't understand. I used to see when I was in New York, two big lines across the street from the hospital where I was training, NYU Downtown Hospital. And one of them was for Starbucks, right? Before they opened, there was a line of people waiting. The other one was for the methadone clinic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So coffee and heroin had equal
We'll
amount
play.
equal amount of addicts and people that really craving and depending on these effects of drugs in order to function,
Yeah.
right? That's the big problem with coffee.
And people are asking about decaf coffee. Same thing. Decaf coffee, what do you think?
Same
Same.
thing. Same
Yes,
thing.
exact thing. Oh my gosh, so much great information. So I got to ask one more question, then I'm going to let you go. I know we're going over time. So after we tackle food, we tackle our hunger, we tackle the quality of food, where do you go next when you're thinking about detoxification? What would be
And,
the
and
next
then
step?
and then you start walking around your house, and then you go to your kitchen and you see what utensils you're using. Are they leaking chemicals into your
Yeah,
food?
yeah.
What are you washing your plates with and your cutlery with? Second, then you go to the laundry room and you take a look at the detergents you're using
Mm-hmm.
and bleaches and all of that. Third, you go to your bathroom, and in your bathroom, the two most important things are water and your toiletries, right? So your toothpaste, if it foams, right, it's because it has a foaming agent.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you really need a foaming agent in your mouth? You need it really. So it's the same agent, SLS, that it's used in your laundry detergent.
Right.
That's why your laundry detergent foams, right? So you look at your deodorant, you look at your lipstick, you look at your base, you look at
Yeah.
you look at your creams, and at your shampoo, and then you look at the water that you're putting in your mouth to rinse your mouth and showering with or taking long baths in. Is it
Mm-hmm.
is it is it filtered water, right? Then you go to your bedroom and you look at your mattress and you see if it has fire retardants, and then you look at your floor and you see if your wood floor is treated, and then you look at your furniture, and then you look at your clothing,
Your paint. And keep
and
going.
and then you look at the paint on your in your does it have VOC,
Yeah.
volatile organic carbohydrate, yeah. And like that, and then in your car, and then your office, and then in your planet, right? and
Yes.
and and you start recycling, and maybe carpool, or walk or go on your bicycle.
Change
um,
your habits. Change what you're
yeah, and if we all start doing little changes, then we're gonna get somewhere.
I
If
love
there's
it. I just think it's such powerful information. So what's next for you? What are you working on? Are you speaking? I know everything's virtual now. Where are you headed? What's going on?
so my attention span is very short. as
No,
I
it's not.
told,
You've been on
as
here for 42
as
minutes. You're
yeah,
doing
but in my planning, what I'm thinking now is, what am I going to give my kids for lunch?
I love it. Actually, I was too, because I've got to go up and do that next. How old are your children?
8, 9, and 14.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mine are 11 and 12, so I'm dealing with that stuff. But I'm going to go upstairs and make sure that it is all organic and not processed, and they're not eating junk so that they don't get more toxicity than they already get through their Wi-Fi and virtual schooling and everything else that's going on. So anyhow, but it's so nice to meet you. I'm thrilled to meet you. I come to LA all the time. So, well, not
Let,
anymore, but I used
let,
to come to LA all the time. But
let, let me know. Let me know if you ever do.
I will. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
Nice talking to you.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.